Alright guys, so today we're going to check out the Dyplay ANC Shield Pro. Now this is a pair of true wireless earbuds that has active noise canceling and comes in retailing at $100. In fact, the company even wanted to reach out to my subscribers and give you guys a 10% discount so you can actually pick these up for 90 bucks. But don't worry, I don't make any money from this link. This is just strictly something that they wanted to be able to offer you guys. So if you're interested, there will be a link below. But let me start with this. As great as I think these had the potential to be, there's just a few things that just simply hold them back for me, and it kind of keeps me from being able to fully recommend these given their price. But let's go ahead and check out some of the features and what it is you get inside the box. Now the first thing is these do have Bluetooth 5.0. They also have SBC and AAC playback. And as far as the connectivity on these, they actually connect to each one individually, and you also have the ability to use them in stereo or mono mode. Now, as far as the IP rating, there is no official IP rating. So if you are somebody that works out or you do a lot of things outdoors, or if you're near water, this is definitely not a pair that I would recommend for that. Now, as far as what you're getting inside the box, you are getting a pair of small, medium, and large silicone ear tips, but you're also getting a pair of small, medium, and large foam ear tips as well. And I'll explain a little bit later in the video why that's actually very important. Now, as far as the charging cable, they have included a USB-C cable, and the battery life on these is actually pretty decent considering they're a pair of active noise canceling earbuds. Now, if you're going to use them with the noise canceling turned off, you can get around 8 hours of battery life, and if you decide to use them with the active noise canceling turned on, you're going to get around 6. Now, as far as the battery life with the charging case, you're going to get around 32 hours total. Now, moving over to looking at the charging case, the first thing that I noticed when I picked this case up was how lightweight it is. It actually kind of feels hollow. Now, looking at the back, you can see the USB-C input, and then around on the front, you have 4 indicator lights so that you can gauge how much battery life is left on the case. Now, when you open up the lid, the first thing that you see is the Dyplay logo on the earbuds. And when taking the earbuds out, another thing that I noticed is how lightweight the earbuds are. They also have that hollow feel. And so when there's not a lot of weight in the earbuds, I find it very easy to keep them in my ear, and I didn't have any issues with these falling out. Now, as far as the controls, they utilize touch controls, and I'm happy to say that they control everything. So you have your play, your pause, skipping your track forward, going backwards, and even volume control. And another thing that you can control on the left earbud is you can switch them between 3 different modes. So they have your active noise canceling on, your active noise canceling off, and then they also have an ambient awareness mode. Now, one thing I did have an issue with is when you're switching between these different modes, it doesn't actually lower the volume of the music. So you can't actually hear the voice tell you what mode that you're in. Now, I will say that the transparency mode just works okay. You can hear a little bit of your surroundings. The difference between the noise canceling on and the noise canceling off is actually not that big of a difference. Now, these do a very good job of passive noise canceling, which is basically just having a good seal and blocking out your surroundings. But as far as the active noise canceling, it's not that noticeable, and it's not really that big of a difference. Now, I will say that when the noise canceling is turned on, the bass does take a little bit of a boost. It's not overpowering, it's not overwhelming, so it's not something that just destroys the sound because you have them in noise canceling mode. So I simply just use these with the noise canceling off, and then I felt that that was the best mode to keep them in. One thing I do want to point out that when you take your earbuds out and you put them in the case, you're usually used to your earbuds just disconnecting from your device. And then that's usually when the case just starts charging them, and then you can kind of forget it. The one thing that I noticed with these is every time that I put my earbuds in the case, they didn't disconnect from my device. So I actually had to power the earbuds down every time that I put them in the case, and I found that to be extremely annoying. And especially if you're somebody that's not going to think about that every time, if you put it in the case thinking that it disconnected, it's just going to be running and using the battery, and the next time you go to reach for them, they're just simply going to be dead. Now, as far as you guys that like to use your earbuds individually, you'll be happy to know that you can use either the left or the right. And then as far as the microphones, I think they're just okay. It's not anything that's going to blow anybody away, but I think it'll be fine for all your phone calls. You guys can be a judge by listening to a test here.
Alright guys, so here is a mic test using the Dyplay ANC Shield Pros. I think they do a fairly good job of picking up my voice. I do notice a little bit of hollowness in the sound of my voice, but this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call. And so now here is a mic test with the crowd noise being played, which you can hear here. And so this is what it would sound like if you were to take a call in public.
So now let's talk about the sound. The first thing that I noticed when I took these out of the box and put in my ear and started listening to music was how awful they sounded. With all of the silicone ear tips that I tried, it was just too boomy, it was too warm. You can tell that the bass just kind of took over everything, and you weren't really able to enjoy the mids or the highs. It just kind of muffled everything, and it just didn't sound good at all. But when I switched over to the foam ear tips, which I'm usually not a fan of using, it made a huge difference. For some reason, it just toned down the bass and brought out the mids and the highs where it was a lot more enjoyable. In fact, these got very close to sounding like the Sennheiser Momentum earbuds by using the foam ear tips. And to me, that was kind of crazy considering how bad they sound with the silicone ear tips. Now, I will say this, if you're somebody that normally doesn't like foam ear tips, I wouldn't recommend these at all because everything that I tried, the foam ear tips was the only way that I got these to sound good. But again, if you do like foam ear tips, that made such a huge difference and got them sounding so close to a pair of $300 earbuds that I could highly recommend them. So I'm going to review the sound more so with the foam ear tips. The bass itself had a lot of punch and a lot of kick, and again, it tightened up to where it was very enjoyable. The mids started to come out and move forward. It still had a very natural feel to it. It didn't feel like they were trying to do anything to overemphasize the mids. It just seemed really smooth, and it had a neutral feel to it. Now the treble definitely brightened up to where you can hear a lot of detail and a lot of clarity. It became much more enjoyable, but again, this is not a treble that gets close to the point of being bright or harsh. It kind of keeps that natural tone to it. And that's kind of the sound signature of these with the foam ear tip. It's really natural feeling, but with a little bit of a boost in the bass. Now, as far as the sound stage and the sound imaging, I had no issue with telling where things were coming from, and these definitely felt like I was in a larger room listening to the music. So I was definitely happy with the way that they sounded. So now as far as my cons with these, one of the main ones is I did not like that they don't disconnect from your device when you put them in the case. I really wish they would have had some kind of IP rating. The ANC on these is just not that great. It does have really good passive noise canceling, but active noise canceling just didn't work really well for me. And then one of my other big gripes is I really hated the sound with the silicone ear tips. It just was way too boomy, way too muddy. It just wasn't enjoyable. So I'm glad that they could save that by including the foam ear tips. But if you're not a fan of those, these aren't gonna work for you. So my overall conclusion on these is the $100 price tag is pretty pricey considering all the competition that's out there. If the active noise canceling would have been good on these, that definitely would have saved it. But I think not being able to disconnect when you put them in your case and they sound bad with silicone ear tips, which is what majority of people use, is definitely going to hold these back. But that's my opinion on the Dyplay ANC Shield Pros. Thank you guys so much for checking out this video. Thank you so much for checking out all the other videos. And as always, make sure to stay tuned for more.